Wow. Take a seat. Thank you. Good morning still. Thank you for allowing us to judge your view today on Unit 4. We're going to introduce ourselves, and then we'll ask you guys to introduce yours. My name is Joe Erlach. I'm the Social Studies Supervisor for Pascack Valley Regional High School District.
I'm Deborah Kasha, and I'm an attorney at Kasha & Kasha in Montville.
My name is Fred Cotterell. I'm a history professor at Montclair State University.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Verbo. Hi, I'm Rachel Panetti.
My name is Emma Mack.
Exactly, Senators. I'm Joseph Yusuf. I'm Nicholas Matriello, and we are here with our teachers, Mr. Luca and Mr. Brett.
Okay.
And I'm Hannah Israel. I'll be your timekeeper today. I'm an elementary special ed teacher.
So we'll read the question to you. It's question number 3 based on Unit 4. The framers wrestled with the language of Article 2, Section 1 to give the President sufficient power without giving him excessive power, as well as how to free him from the excessive dependence on the legislature, while at the same time assuring that he did not become an elected monarch. To what extent have the framers' hopes been realized? What evidence can you offer to support your position? Article 2, Section 1 gives the President executive power, but does not define what that power is. How would you define executive power? What examples can you cite of presidents using their executive power? How can Congress check the exercise of the President's powers?
Framers wanted a strong chief executive, but not one who abused his powers. According to author Catherine Draker Bowman in America of Philadelphia, framers like James Wilson did not want a feeble president. Instead, they wanted an energetic president who could take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Article 2 of the Constitution grants him this executive power. It leads the executive branch, empower criminals, and appoint ambassadors and judges. The vague definition of executive power has usually increased during times of emergency.
At times, the president must go above the Constitution to preserve the safety of the majority. As a commander-in-chief, he preserves the safety of the people while increasing his power. During times of emergency, the president has exercised unprecedented power not listed in the Constitution in the form of executive orders. For example, Abraham Lincoln established martial law during the Civil War when he suspended the writ of habeas corpus, spent money on the military without permission of Congress, and established a draft. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation. During World War II, President Roosevelt militarized cities in the United States, leading to the internment of Japanese Americans. Even though it violated the fundamental rights of Japanese Americans, the Supreme Court justified the president's actions in Korematsu versus the United States. They ruled there was a compelling state interest, which was the war with Japan. Justice Hugo Black stated, all citizens alike, both in and out of uniform, feel the impact of war. Citizenship has its responsibilities as well as its privileges, and in time of war, the burden is always heavier.
President Andrew Jackson violated his duties when he didn't execute the Supreme Court decision in Worcester versus Georgia, which protected the property of the Cherokee Indians. He stated, John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. On the other hand, President Eisenhower sent troops to Little Rock, Arkansas to ensure that the schools were desegregated as ruled in Brown versus Board of Education. In her remarks, former Sandra Day O'Connor implied that Eisenhower felt that the Supreme Court's decisions were inescapable. Presidents have used signing statements to circumvent the Congress to ensure that which part of its legislation they believe to be enforceable and which part they don't agree with and consequently won't execute.
Other powers of the President include recommending legislation in Congress, vetoing bills from Congress, and using recess appointments to fill seats in the Senate when it isn't in session. President Andrew Jackson vetoed bills that he considered unconstitutional or bad policy. Recently, President Obama asserted the power of recess appointments when he appointed 3 individuals to the National Labor Relations Board and Richard Cordray to head the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is an example of the President bypassing Congress's constitutional power to approve appointments. In fact, Edmund Meese, the former U.S. Attorney General, said it was a breathtaking violation of the separation of powers and duty of committee that the executive was to Congress.
Andrew Jackson achieved most of his policy that had strong public support. Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson realized the importance of good public support and set up the bully pulpit, needing good platform to persuasively advocate an agenda. According to Larry Sevedo, professor of political science Presidents can effectively utilize the power of persuasion with this platform to shape public opinion and frame debates on domestic legislation proposed to the public. With public support, President can increase their power and achieve many of their initiatives. Lyndon B. Johnson lost most of his public support because of his Vietnam policy. As a result, he was unable to convince Congress to continue to fund the war.
The framers implemented provisions for Congress to check the president. In his book, Multiple Constitution, Mary Sabata pointed out that the framers did not want the president to have the power to declare war, so they left it to Congress. Congress can impeach the president if he commits high crimes or misdemeanors while in office, can defund his programs, and can nullify his veto with a 2/3 vote. Thus, the president cannot fulfill his executive office without the support of Congress. Investigations allow Congress to supervise the president's actions, his recommended appointments, and his treaties. These checks balance the president's independence from the legislature by restricting his power so as to not become too excessive.
Thank you. Has Congress relinquished too much power to the president? Why or why not?
Well, the War Powers Act limits the president's ability to unconstitutionally declare war without their consent. So I believe that the Congress still holds a strong checking power over the government. And this is relevant because, as you all may be aware of our current involvement around the world in our interventionist policies, we haven't declared war since World War II. We haven't won a war since World War II. We have to stop our unconstitutional declaring of wars, because the Constitution is declared that Congress is the one who has the ability to declare war, not the president.
I agree with my classmate. It was once in Federalist 7, it's just Alexander Hamilton once said that the power of Congress to declare war is inherent in their enumerated powers because of the elastic clause. And George Sutherland, Assistant Justice, stated in United States versus Curtis Wright Incorporated that declaring war is inherent in the nation's sovereignty and not dependent on the enumerated powers.
I have to agree with my classmates, both Nicholas and Amro, is that looking at today, the president doesn't have much power as they did before because Congress, since Congress is a majority of Republicans and President Barack Obama is a Democrat, the Republicans are going against his views and they just want to oppose everything, his plans, and so which creates gridlocks in our system, which isn't very good in our nation.
This is a good thing. The greatest fear of the founders was the establishment of a strong central authority. This is why consequently they instituted 3 branches to balance the president's power, the second branch being one of them.
To add on to what Classmate Cassandra said, there is much dysfunction in our system today. Congress had to pass 1.2 to 1.5 trillion in cuts or face
Automatic government shutdown. And many people see that this is dysfunctional. They see our system as dysfunctional and not working. However, one should consider that this may have been the original intent of the founders. As I said, their greatest fear was the establishment of strong central authority, because we just escaped from strong central authority in King George. And this is why, as Karen Holt, political professor at Virginia Tech says, dysfunction is in the eyes of an observer.
Karen Holt also said that the framers did not want an efficient government. They were too worried about things being done too quickly, and they did not want this to happen.
Thank you.
I have a question with regard to public opinion. What role, if any, does public opinion play in limiting the power of the president?
I'm glad you asked that question. Well, the approval rating of Congress is so low, and this is because they can't agree on anything. And the term gridlock is thrown around so derisively and loosely, but as we said, this is what the founders intended. They intended for this gridlock, but rather than gridlock, I'd rather say scrutiny, deliberation over laws. Even President Obama, who has been affected by all this gridlock, he claims in his State of the Union address that it's important that every detail and every letter of every law is considered.
James Madison once said that he'd rather have no laws than bad laws, and this is what my colleague Amro was explaining.
public opinion does affect Congress. Public opinion now, the rating right now is 4% only trusts Congress. So I believe that the public opinion of the people do have a great impact on Congress.
According to the article, What's Wrong with Washington, political scientist Ornstein has observed that the attitude of the Republicans, which is if Obama is for it, then we are against it. For instance, in the health care bill, the Republicans had original ideas within there, and they have tried to dismantle it because they don't want President Barack Obama to have any of his plans follow through.
So, back to the question, I believe that public opinion does matter. This nation was built from the ground up, not the top down. This goes in hand with delegate theory of representation, which states that representatives must follow their constituents' interests, not their own interests. Trust me government basically says that you place all your trust into one man. Our nation is not that naive to give all the power to government officials. They must follow our constituents, their needs, their wishes.
To add on to what Anglo said, James Madison said that public opinion sets bounds on government and is the real sovereign and every free one. Public opinion is very important, and presidents in elections and all of their thing, all this,
Ultimately, public opinion is more of the domain of the president. Because with public opinion, the president can usurp his powers, such as Theodore Roosevelt had done back when he was in office, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And even today, it's more on a larger scale since the internet. You have all these websites with different political websites. Barack Obama has his own website. Every senator has his own website.
How can the Supreme Court check the exercise of presidential power?
Supreme Court can declare the acts of the president unconstitutional. For example, an executive order, I think this represents the biggest assertion of constitutional order in our government today. Can I finish? An executive order. I just finished myself.
Yes, go ahead.
An executive order goes above all constitutional restraints. It dictates from martial law to the flag code of the United States. Well, I should stop, sorry.
Now it's time to give you some feedback.
It's nice to see that you're very energetic and that you have so much information that we actually have to call time on you. So I see the positive side of the wealth of your information, all of you. And I like the way you fed off of each other and helped each other out as you were trying to think of responses to the questions. It was nice to see that you truly are working as a team, which is what we need more of in the government also. Working as a team.
I think your use of secondary sources was magnificent. You brought in relevant articles, up-to-date articles, political views, both historical and current event issues that relate to the question, contemporary sources, which I thought was great.
Actually, the first question would have been different, but you answered it in your opening. And that was historical examples. You gave a wide range of historical examples of the use of executive power. So that was very well done. And that's, we didn't have to ask you that question.
Keeping us on our
Yeah,
toes.
that's right. Very good. Also, I want to make use of the experts or commentary by other people. Someone might have to use an expert, might be more articles of opinion. Several things which were very good, I thought, and signing statements. That's a great example of executive power, signing statements. That's phenomenal. And that has been heavily used in the last 20 years. The other thing is the recess appointments. Good example, again, use of executive power, understanding how the game is played accordingly. I just want, as a suggestion, as you move forward, and that is be careful between opinion and interpretation. You can present interpretations on, like the use of presidential powers or act out at certain times, but when you give the opinion of yours, I would be careful on that, because I think you should just use other people's interpretations and how they see things. but there were a couple of very strong opinionated statements there, you know, about not doing a good job, or something that I've already regard. I didn't write down their stuff. There was an opinion about war, I would want to remember. You can remember whether since 1945 or World War II, no war to declare, no lost, no wars. Well, put those two together. That means the presidents had do what they think is essential for national defense. Guess what? We lose. Only Congress makes good decisions like declaring war, which we win. You know what I'm saying? Be careful of those types of things. I also want to say, when you need to assist a colleague, maybe use a little phrase like, if I may, to get into the conversation, rather than cut your colleague off, you know, abruptly. Because sometimes we do search for words, or we get an idea, and somehow it just stops for a moment as we collect our thoughts. So if you want to get in there, it's like, if I may, then you can add to it. So it brings the attention there, rather than all of a sudden, and helps also save face with your colleagues a little bit. A little tactic like that. But I was very impressed. And by the way, what course are you doing this, or what program?
U.S. history.
U.S. History 1 honors. So you're all
Sophomores. It's in the curriculum.
yeah. This is
We're not an elective course.
right. That's what I want to clarify.
We haven't done US 2 yet.
And by the way, over the years, Bayonne has done done an outstanding job every year. Brings an unbelievable